Have you ever wondered why the zebra wears a coat of black and white stripes while others walk in plain shades? Let me take you to a time before patterns and paint, where animals once walked the earth without the colors we see today. What happened to change everything? And how did the zebra end up looking the way it does? Sit close, because what I'm about to share is a tale of pride, cleverness, and a lesson painted on skin forever. Asterisk the time before stripes, I remember the world before stripes dot before the bold black kissed the soft white and danced across my skin. I was just dot 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 plain, no shimmer, no pattern, no shadow lines to break the sun on my back. I was the color of dust, maybe a little darker when it rained, and a little lighter when I rolled in dry sand to cool off. That was me, just another animal among the many who roamed the wide savanna. But the world, oh, how different it looked. Back then, the sky was still blue, the sun still golden, and the wind still carried the scent of wild acacia trees. But the animals, yes, us, we were simpler. No feathers too bright, no fur too fancy. The lion had not yet earned his golden mane, and the leopard was still without her spots. Everyone wore the same shade of nature's neutrality, and I was just one of them, ordinary. Each morning I would wake as the sun tiptoed across the horizon, stretching warm fingers over the golden grasses. The birds would sing not in bright colors like today, but in soft browns and grays. The elephants, massive and wise, would march in silence to the watering hole, their skin just as bare and blank as mine. The antelope ran past like gliding, shadows, graceful and beautiful in movement. Though their coats were still unmarked, even the peacock had not yet found his tail. Can you imagine that? Back then, there were no loud colors in the animal world. Nature had not yet opened her paint box, but sometimes when the wind was quiet and the night was cool, the stars would whisper stories. Stories of a place far beyond. The riverbanks, beyond the hills, where beauty waited in hiding, a beauty that could change everything. My grandmother, a wise old zebra before zebras had stripes, would tell me such stories under the moon. She'd whisper about a magical lake hidden in the heart of the jungle, where animals could earn patterns from the spirits of the earth if their hearts were ready. At the time, I thought those were just bedtime tales, stories to make the nights feel less long. Still, something about them stayed with me. I wasn't unhappy. No, I could run faster than the winds on some days. I had friends. I could drink from the cleanest streams and sleep under skies full of stars. But there was a feeling I couldn't shake, a quiet little ache inside me, like a song I didn't know the words to. I didn't want to just be. I wanted to shine. It started with noticing others. The antelope, for instance, her movements were poetry. Even without color, she floated when she ran. One day, as I watched her leap across a dry riverbed, a ray of sun caught her side and made her look like she glowed. All the animals stopped to stare. Even the lion, who normally didn't care for anything unless it could be chased, paused to admire her grace. That moment stuck with me. I remember standing there thinking, why does she shine and I don't? That question became a pebble in my hoof, always. They're always uncomfortable. Soon after, I began to dream of the magical lake. Not just dream in my sleep, but in my waking moments too. I imagined how I might look if I had patterns of my own. Swirls like the wind, maybe, or dots like raindrops. But most of all, I saw stripes, bold, fearless lines across my body, like the trails left by shooting stars. I didn't know why. I didn't know how. But I wanted them. And so one evening I walked away. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brothers, not my friends, not even my grandmother. The ache inside had grown too loud to ignore, and the story of the magical lake too sweet to resist. I told myself it would just be a short journey, a little adventure. I'd find the lake, see the truth for myself, and come back. That was the beginning of everything dawned as I walked. The grass grew taller, the trees thicker, and the sky a little quieter. I was leaving the world I knew, the flatlands where every animal's name and voice was familiar, and stepping into mystery. With every step, I felt both smaller and braver. I didn't know it yet, but that journey would test more than just my legs. It would test my heart, my mind, and the reason I wanted to change in the first place. But that's a tale for later. For now, just remember this. Before the zebra had stripes, he was just like everyone else. But he carried inside him a question. And sometimes it's that question, the one you can't let go of, that leads you to your greatest truth. The boastful antelope and my restless heart, they say a single word can echo louder than a lion's roar. For me, that word came from the antelope dot. It was the third morning since I'd started to feel the ache in my chest. The feeling that I wasn't enough. The sun had just risen warm and golden, as always, and the animals had gathered at the watering hole. The water was still a perfect mirror for all of us who bent our necks to drink. I remember looking at my reflection that morning. Just dust and dullness. Nothing that would make anyone stop or stare. Then she arrived, the antelope. Graceful as always, with legs like reeds swaying in the breeze. Even without color, there was something about her that drew every eye. It wasn't just how she moved, it was how she knew she moved beautifully. Her hooves barely kissed the ground as she stepped toward the water, and as she leaned down to drink, a hush settled over the clearing. The birds stopped singing. Even the monkeys froze in the trees, and that's when she said it. Without lifting her head, she looked into the water, flicked one of her ears, and said softly, but loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Beauty is a gift, not everyone is born with it." The words hit me like a thorn in the heart. She wasn't talking to anyone directly, but her voice wrapped around the moment like a ribbon. I saw heads turn. I saw eyes shift toward me. No one laughed. No one defended me. They didn't have to. I felt it. I was not beautiful. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her words in my head, over and over. Each time, they stung sharper than the last. I tried to convince myself that she was just showing off, that maybe she didn't mean it. But deep down, I knew what she said had found its mark. So, under a sky dusted with stars, I stood up and began to walk. I didn't take anything with me. What could I take? I had no shell like the turtle, no wings like the hawk. Just hooves, legs, and a longing that would not let me rest. I followed the whispers of the wind, the pull of the earth beneath my feet. I didn't know exactly where. I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. The forest began quietly. At first, it was nothing more than a patch of trees past the open plains. But with each step deeper, the light began to shift. The sun filtered down in slivers. Shadows began to stretch. The air grew cooler and smelled of damp earth and old stories. The further I walked, the louder the forest seemed to speak. It wasn't. Long before I met someone, a monkey swinging lazily from a low branch spotted me and snorted. "What's a plains runner doing this deep in the trees?" he asked upside down. "I'm looking for the magical lake," I said, trying to sound braver than I felt. That made him laugh. A sharp, high-pitched chitter. "You and every other dusty creature. You think a few splashes in some spirit water will make you special?" He dropped to the ground in front of me, tilting his head. "Why do you even want to change? What's wrong with what you are?" I didn't know how to answer. Part of me wanted to shout because I'm tired of being invisible. But instead, I just said, "I want more." He didn't laugh this time. He blinked slowly, then pointed with one long finger deeper into the woods. "You'll have to go through the grove of echoes. But be careful. That place doesn't just test your legs, it tests your truth." I nodded, thanked him, and moved on. The Grove of Echoes was unlike any place I had seen. Trees grew in tight circles, and their trunks were covered in markings old, ancient symbols that glowed faintly when touched by moonlight. When I stepped between them, the air changed. It became thicker, heavier, and then I heard it doubt my voice. Not everyone is born with it. The antelope's words echoed through the trees. But it wasn't her voice this time, it was mine. Repeating her cruel words back to me, then another. I want more. I want to shine. I am not enough. All my thoughts, fears, doubts, they circled around me, spoken aloud by the trees themselves. I stumbled. I tried to block my ears, but it was no use. The grove was forcing me to face myself. Every word I had thought in secret, every fear I had buried, every hope I had tried to hide, it all came alive around me, And that's when I understood. I couldn't reach the lake with a heart full of envy. The spirits didn't reward those who simply wanted to look beautiful. The journey wasn't about showing off or making others jealous. It was about discovering why I wanted to change. Was it because I hated what I was? Or because I believed there was something more inside me waiting to be shown? I sat beneath one of the trees for what felt like hours, listening. Not to the echoes, but to the silence in between. The part of me that wasn't angry, that wasn't proud. The part that simply longed to be true. By the time I rose, the grove had gone quiet. The trees no longer whispered. They simply watched, patient and old. I walked forward, lighter. My steps no longer stomped with frustration, but flowed with purpose. I was no longer chasing beauty. I was seeking meaning. The monkey had been right. The forest tests more than your legs, It tests your reason. And I had found mine. The journey through shadows and wisdom. I wish I could tell you the journey grew easier after the Grove of Echoes. That once I faced my fears, the rest of the path unfolded gently beneath my hooves. But that would be a lie. In truth, the deeper I went, the stranger the world became. The forest thickened into a kind of twilight realm. The trees grew taller, their branches locking together high above me, weaving a ceiling that turned day into dusk. The air hung heavy with mist, the kind that clings to your skin and whispers along your neck. I could no longer see the sky. I could no longer tell what time it was. I only knew to keep walking. Something was guiding me, not a sound, not a scent, but a pull from within, like a string tied to my heart, leading me forward. That was when I met the tortoise. He was old, so old. His shell looked carved from stone. Moss grew in patches across his back, and his eyes were yellow with time. I nearly stumbled over him as he rested beneath a crooked fig tree. You walk like someone chasing a shadow, he said without looking at me. I froze. I'm looking for the magical lake, I replied cautiously. He blinked very slowly. Most who search for it don't know what they're really seeking. I stepped closer. I think I do. The tortoise lifted his head and looked me straight in the eyes. Then let me ask you, if no one ever saw your stripes, if they made you number faster, no stronger, would you still want them? I opened my mouth, that no words came. Would I? That single question pressed against everything I believed about myself. I had left home because I wanted to stand out, to shine, to be something more than plain. But now, after walking so far, after shedding some of that bitterness in the grove of echoes, was I still chasing attention? Or something else? I don't know. I admitted. The tortoise nodded slowly. Then you are ready to move forward. Wisdom does not live in certainty, it lives in the questions we carry with care. He turned away and pointed his wrinkled claw toward a narrow path hidden behind the roots of the fig tree. Go that way. But be warned, the shadows ahead do not lie. They show you who you truly are. I bowed my head in thanks and walked on. That path was the darkest I'd ever stepped into. Here, the shadows were not just from trees or rocks. They moved. They whispered. They knew me. They knew the time I pushed another young zebra aside to drink. First, they knew the day I lied to my grandmother just to avoid chores. They knew every small selfishness, every jealousy, every unkind thought. Each one followed me. They didn't attack, they reflected. I saw myself in them. A version of me shaped not by who I wanted to be, but by who I had been. And strangely, I didn't feel fear. I felt sorrow and relief, because at last I could see all of me, and for the first time, I did not turn away. That's when I found the mirror tree, It stood at the end of the shadowed path. Tall and bare, its bark as smooth as glass. When I looked into it, I didn't just see my reflection, I saw versions of myself, dozens of them. One with brilliant spots like the leopard, another with flowing, flame-colored fur like a mythical beast, one with wings, one glowing like moonlight, and then I saw me with stripes, black and white, bold and balanced. But I didn't just see those stripes, I felt them. I remembered them, even though I'd never had them. It was as if they had always been a part of me, hidden deep, waiting to rise to the surface. Suddenly, the mirror tree cracked, not breaking, but shifting. Its surface shimmered like rippling water, and through it, I saw a figure, not an animal, not a spirit, not quite a dream. It was the guardian of the lake. She stepped forward through the tree's reflection as though stepping out of a ripple. Tall, radiant. She wasn't striped or spotted or colored at all. She was every shade of light and shadow combined, shifting like clouds across her skin. "You've come far," she said. Her voice didn't echo in the forest. It echoed in my bones. "I've come with questions," I said. My voice felt small, honest. She smiled. "Then you have come with the right offering." I frowned. Offering? She reached out and touched my forehead, just between my eyes. "The lake does not give beauty. It reveals truth. You must offer yourself, nothing more, nothing less." I closed my eyes. I thought of the antelope and her cruel words. I thought of the grove and the voices I had buried. I thought of the tortoise and his question. I thought of my grandmother's stories. I thought of who I was before I began this journey, and then I let go. I let go of needing to be seen. I let go of wanting to be better than anyone else. I let go of the ache. I opened my eyes and nodded. "I'm ready." The guardian turned and walked into the mirror tree. I followed. On the other side was the lake. It was small, still, silver as moonlight, but glowing with something deeper. It did not shine, it listened. As I stepped closer, I saw no reflection at all, only a surface that waited. I stepped in, not with a splash, but with a silence so deep it rang in my ears. And the moment the water touched me, everything changed. The transformation and the lesson etched in stripes. The water didn't feel like water. It felt like memory. Like every step I'd taken, every fear I'd faced, every truth I'd whispered in the dark. As I walked deeper into the lake, the surface held me not with force, but with recognition. I wasn't sinking. I was being seen. And then the light came, not from above, not from the sky. It rose from beneath the surface, pulsing gently through the water like a heartbeat. I looked down, expecting to see my legs as they had always been dust-colored. Plain, familiar, but I saw something else. Lines, bold, perfect lines, black as night, white as bone. Stripes. They began at my ankles, wrapping slowly upward like vines of light and shadow intertwining. I couldn't move. I didn't want to. I watched in awe as they spread, curling up my legs, across my back, around my neck. Each stripe felt like a story etched into me, not with ink, but with experience, with truth, with the journey I had taken. To get here. When they reached my face, I felt something shift, not on the outside, But within, I remembered who I had been when I began, the one who wanted to be noticed, the one who believed beauty was something others gave you with their eyes. Now I saw that beauty was not something worn. It was something earned, through humility, through courage, through truth. The guardian appeared beside the lake's edge, her face calm and proud. She nodded once. "You have accepted yourself," she said. "Now the world will see you." I stepped out of the lake, and as I did, I felt lighter, taller. Not because I had changed shape, but because I had found shape inside myself. The wind touched my new coat, and it felt different. The way light danced along my sides was different too, no longer swallowed by dullness, but broken into bold contrasts, black and white, darkness and light balance as I began the long journey. Back to the savannah, I didn't rush. Every step felt sacred. I passed through the mirror tree again. The grove of echoes was quiet this time. No voices, just leaves shifting gently in a breeze that seemed to hum with approval. Even the shadows that had once haunted me now bowed in silence. When I emerged from the forest, the sun greeted me like an old friend. I reached the plains just as the herds were gathering by the watering hole, just as they had on the day I left. At first, no one noticed me. But as I stepped closer, heads began to turn, eyes widened. Mouths opened. The monkeys dropped their fruit. The lion lifted his great head. The birds stilled in the trees, and the antelope. She stared. Her proud posture faltered, just for a breath. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't trying to be seen. I was simply being me. The young ones came first. Curious, wide-eyed, they touched my stripes and gasped. "Are they painted?" one asked. "Are they magic?" Another whispered Dot. I smiled. "They're truth," I said softly. Dot, my grandmother, old and wise, came hobbling forward. She looked me up and down, her eyes shining with tears. "So the lake was real after all," she murmured. "And you were brave enough to find it?" "No," I said. "I was lost enough to seek it." She smiled. The days that followed were filled with questions. The other animals asked if they too could earn stripes or spots or colors. Some mocked. At first, others dreamed aloud. But something had changed, not just in me, but in the world. As if my transformation had cracked something open. Soon after, the leopard found her spots. The lion earned his golden mane. Even the birds began to shimmer with color. Each one followed their own path. Some through song, others through silence. But the forest and its magic opened itself to those who walked with true purpose. And that is how it began, how patterns returned to the earth, how beauty returned to the animals. Not the kind made to impress, but the kind earned through journey, struggle, and understanding. As for me, I walk the same paths as before. I graze. I run. I tell stories. And wherever I go, the young ones ask me the same question. What do your stripes mean? I tell them, each stripe is a step I took, a mistake I made, a truth I faced, a fear I walked through, a lesson I learned. They are not decorations. They are a map of who I am. So if you ever see a zebra under the golden African sun, running across the plains with a coat painted in shadow and light, remember this. Those stripes are more than beauty. Our memory, they are meaning. They are the story of someone who left the herd to become themselves and came back changed, not to be admired, but to inspire.